You are listening to Radio Ramadan 365 podcasts.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Welcome back to the Muslim Youth Show of 2026. I'm your host Qasim, with my co-host as always Usman, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam, Qasim. How we doing?
Alhamdulillah, not bad. Alhamdulillah. How are you? How's Ramadan been so far? 10 days already.
10 days already, alhamdulillah. It's been brilliant, man. Good. I mean, you don't really realize about the time because this year the fast opens always quite early, 5:30, quarter
Yeah,
two, and now obviously it's like around 5:50. So it's good. Obviously, you get back from work at around 5 o'clock, and then you're just kind of rushing, try to do your wuzu and get a little bit of time in to read some Quran, and
yeah.
then you open your fast and straight
Alhamdulillah.
back out for Tarawih.
Ready Ramadan volunteers and stuff. We were at the Ark. And I walked in a little bit late because I was with a patient in the dental hospital. And I look on the screen and I had to ask Usman, I was like, is Sheikh Rudwan live or is it a recording? I wasn't really sure. But Alhamdulillah, Sheikh was live and today we have him on our show. Alhamdulillah, Sheikh, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa Islam.
How are you, Sheikh? How's things, man?
I'm very well. Did you not know I was live?
I was a little bit confused. I was
Well,
like,
then you know what I did? I saw because the camera is pointing towards the people in the audience.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
actually pointed at somebody while I was speaking. So
At
obviously,
that point, I figured it out. You were,
okay.
especially when you gave a shout out to my granddad, Mullah Tufail. I was like, yeah, that's too right.
There you
I mean,
go.
Gus,
There you go.
Gus,
But
and that's what happens when you turn up late.
I know, yeah. What can I do? I had a patient, but
Oh no,
alhamdulillah.
hold on. So you're the grandson of the legend.
Yeah, of course,
Oh
man.
my goodness. I feel so like honored to be speaking in your presence. Oh my goodness, this is like a dream come true.
Gosh, Sheikh, you know my uncles, you know all these lot. You know my
No, but your grandfather's cut of a different cloth.
he's something special, man. He is special,
So
man.
he was in Istanbul 2 years ago. We took him for a meal
Uh,
at a traditional home. No, they're not the kebab places. It's a proper Turkish home cooking
oh,
restaurant, which is over 115 years old. And he liked the food because it's natural, all the vegetables and things. So, alhamdulillah.
no,
Yeah.
alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Oh, that's so nice, man. Jazakallah khair. Um, Recently we just had Imam Mustaqim of Walsall. We had them on for an episode. And before we shot the episode, I was just having a conversation with him. And mashallah, he's very aware of problems amongst the youth and stuff. And so he gave us some ideas as to what to talk about on the show. And
Mhm.
one of them was, marriage is now like a hardship for a lot of young people.
Mm,
They have loads of different thoughts and sort of complex ideas about marriage, things that, I think weren't sort of a trend back in the day. At least from, what I know about people when we speak about marriage, especially young people, they're a little bit confused as to like what marriage really is. Like, is it
mhm,
just like simply a contract, or is it something deeper?
mm.
I apologize
Okay.
for the surprise of the topic.
No, no, not at all. Not at all. Is this to get an expert? I'm not an expert. But I
No,
know about marriage, absolutely. And I'll talk about it, inshallah. So, what's the confusion? Do you think it's, what's the purpose of it? It's like, obviously, like to get married is simple. Like, you need to have things in place. That you have to have a bride and a groom. So let's go to basic biology. It has to be a male and a female,
yeah, yeah.
because you'd be surprised the kind of questions I get now. Male, female. Either the male or the female proposes, and one accepts, one proposes. Then you have generally a wali, which is like a guardian looking after the girl and her her rights. So making sure that she's not kind of doing something that she'll regret later on, and representing her interests, for example. Then you have the mahar, and essentially, that's the main aspects of what a nikah is. So from the piece of paper, it's not even a piece of paper actually, it's the two witnesses as well. So that's everything there. You don't have to have a piece of paper. You have to have the imam, the two witnesses, the wali, the bride and groom, and the ijab and qabul. That's your kind of pillars of the marriage. But obviously, you're not asking about that. But you'd be surprised the number of times people have arranged the marriage and they've forgotten about something like the mahar, or they've forgotten to assign two witnesses, or
Yeah.
they've not properly consulted with the wali. So all these things, technical things, actually are important. But if you're asking about what marriage is, that's more interesting. Actually, it's actually it's at the core of it. It's to do with uns. It's to do with companionship. It's to do with this sense of tranquility, and it comes from the verses of the Quran. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. And God has placed in marriage mawadda, which is love. Love is always unconditional. Wudud is one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the rahmah also comes from the name of Allah, which is to do with mercy. Those are the two things that in a sense of companionship are really important. Love, which comes easy. And this is what, was it a couple of weeks ago? Valentine's Day, everyone's going, crazy about that. But rahmah, which is mercy, which is consideration, which is what comes in when things get tough. So essentially, one aspect is to have this kind of tranquility, a bit of peace, because you're not really complete as a person until you share your life with somebody. And the other thing, obviously, is procreation. Its procreation is to continue the lineage, continue the human species. And you probably know about South Korea. It's got a birth rate of, I think, 0.6. It should be
Oh,
2.2. It's
yeah, yeah.
0.6, which means South Korea within 2 generations will not exist unless they do something drastic. Italy, Spain, all these countries are basically going to not exist. Think of Italy, Rome, the Roman Empire is going to disappear. Why? Because people just can't procreate. They can do everything else. And so at the core of, alhamdulillah, there's something that the Prophet ﷺ, said, النكاح من سنتي فما رغب عن سنتي فليس مني. It's a very famous hadith, but the context of it is three people come to the Prophet's house. They ask the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, how is the Prophet ﷺ in private? And they told him how he prays, how he fasts, and how he is with his wives. And one of them said, I'll fast and never break my fast. The other one said, I'll pray and I'll never stop praying at night, standing in prayer. The other one said, I won't get married. And the Prophet got angry. He actually said to them, the nikah min sunnati. The nikah, which is to marry, is from my sunnah, meaning there's a spiritual aspect of it. And young people have to understand that marriage is not just about lovey-dovey. It's also about, big things like procreation. It's about keeping the lineage, keeping the human species. But also, I think the big one is tranquility and companionship. And I think a lot of people, they romanticize marriage and they think it's kind of a feeling in the heart, and you kind of get like infatuated, and then you have the kind of Bollywood music and all these kind of things. And they kind of think of it as something like it's not. Marriage is easy to get married, and it's actually easy to continue, but you have to work at it. So it's like a plant. If you're given a plant, if you're ever given a house plant, you get it, it might last for a week unless you take care of it. And essentially, marriage is very similar. So that idea of tranquility, the idea of peace is something that you don't really realize you miss until you get it. And I think that's what young people have to think about. That's why it's such an encouraged thing. And also that's why you need to put a bit of thought into it. And also, I think, also take advice from people who are mature to see what the best way of approaching that would be.
Lovely, man. For someone that didn't prepare, that was one hell of an answer,
You know
man.
what I'm doing? I'm actually cooking. So I'm in the kitchen. I've got chicken and tikka masala that I'm actually heating up. We can go live and I can show you the picture. It's actually bubbling away.
I thought you were saying cooking in another manner there. Do you know how young people use that word?
No,
That's
of
exactly
course,
what I
top
thought.
bins. I'm cooking. It's Aura farming.
Shaykh, how do you know this stuff? You're in Turkey? This is,
Bro, I've got my finger on the pulse. I store top bins all the time.
Days, so mashallah. So, Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, man. One hell of an answer. I think my question was, just as you answered, it was in reference to that, right? Like when I speak to really young guys, that's what they talk about. They're like, oh, I want to fall in love, and they have this like misconstrued idea of marriage. Um,
Mm.
but I think a lot of that does clear up when
See,
you.
that thing, falling in love, like fall, like you don't want to fall.
Mm,
You want to have your wits about you, because that's when you get hurt. You want
yeah,
to you want to make the right choice, and then you will, let's say, yeah, you see in English they fall in love, but essentially you love the person you married. I
yeah,
don't like the expression fall because it indicates you do it before you get married and you try and make it work. But you don't know you don't know anything about the person, you don't know their background, you don't know the compatibility, you don't know their psychological compatibility to you in terms of personality, none of that. So falling in love before you get to answer the big question is a big no-no.
hmm
It's because I've seen people. One of the things I used to do a lot. I used to kind of study couples, and especially good couples that when I was like 17, 18, 19, couples that I thought were working, they were doing, working as a good couple, they were happy, they were doing lots of things, and they were content. I used to kind of think, what's it about them that makes it work? And it was never, when I spoke to them, it was never about the fact they fell in love and all the rest of it and then decided to get married. It was more about they kind of were introduced by mutual friends. They found they were compatible, at a basic level. There was no red flags. And then once they were serious, they decided to get married. And then they ended up loving the other person, caring, because the love is like, I always say, if I'm giving a talk at a nikah, which I'm not done for a long time actually, I always say God gives you two gifts, which is love and mercy. The love comes the moment that you say yes. So that's like something that you're given as a freebie in the marriage, and you just need to continue that. And then the rahmah is when your nafs, or you kind of get a bit frustrated as you do in life, work, stresses and things like that, and then you kind of need a bit of mercy to the other person to keep it going. And everyone goes through difficult times. So I think this is like, so how you perceive it, like falling in love is a big no-no, because essentially then you're gonna have to have this whole thing of then getting over it if the person, doesn't want to get married to you for some reason. Maybe they, at the end, the last minute, they say, okay, I've decided that I don't want to get married. You have to think that there's not just one person out there in the universe for you, and that if you fall in love with that person before marriage, that person is supposed to be for you. It's not like that. It's a question of do the introductions properly, look at compatibility, know what your rights and responsibilities are, and then say Bismillah, and then work on it. That's it.
hmm Perfect, man. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. That was really
Because I
good.
was talking to actually somebody recently about, there was a pop star, and she's had like eight or nine. I was explaining to them, and she said, "Oh, it's one, two, three, four. It's like seven people that she'd been dating, and this is the one." And I said, How do you know this is the one?" I guarantee if you told me about the one prior to this, she would have said this is the one, and I guarantee her Twitter feed would have said this is the one. Why wasn't it the one? Because it was obvious that it wasn't based on any bigger goal that you have as a couple. And so that's the thing. I mean, you have to be very careful with these things. It's important to get as many people that you are, I think, are wise. Yeah, people that are wise, people that you trust involved, and then do your istikhara, and then take it forward.
100%. And I think to a lot of people that have this misconstrued idea of marriage, it does it is a sort of slap in the face when they do get married and they start to realize, what it's all about. I think alhamdulillah, even when I got married last year at 20 years old. My wife was also 20.
So,
And even though we both had, the right idea of marriage and stuff like that, there's still like wake up calls that you still have. There are just certain realities that they're gonna come, and there's nothing else that you can do. Only thing you can do is accept them.
mm,
Alhamdulillah, I guess that's just learning. That's just, adapting to what is reality, and it's good. But I think we were very fortunate because both our families, they made sure we sort of had a good head on our shoulders when it came to marriage. I feel like
mm,
people don't have that. or even like a community figure to tell them properly. You know what I mean? Just as sort of like a support system when it comes to these things. I think a lot of people
Mm,
are missing that. Alhamdulillah, we got lucky, and even still, we had to experience certain realities that we just were not prepared for.
mm,
Well, what do you think, Sheikh? Right? Say people do get married under the guise of like, falling in love, right? Whether it was before marriage or even when they get married, they just have like sort of false ideals about marriage. Do you think within the marriage itself, it will clear up for people like that? It will become clear to them what marriage is really all about? Or do you think
mm.
you're gonna have to start all over again, basically?
No, I think look, anything can be salvaged. I'm a great disbeliever in counseling, like the kind of marriage counseling, because I think it's just like, in terms of looking at a problem, it's always digging. See, the more you dig into a problem, he said that, she said this, she did that, her mother did this, or he did. So the more you dig, the more you create negativity, and the more it's impossible to solve a situation, because then it's all about rights, responsibilities. You're basically playing, a game where you're depositing a right and a responsibility, and you're never going to get to the end of it. It's always about looking forward, and it's about taking stock and then saying from now on, okay, we're going to sort ourselves out, we're going to move forward. That is a kind of mindset that is very rare now. I think people really look to kind of ask for their responsibilities and say, you didn't do this, or we promised this, you didn't do that. I think it's more about applying yourself really well to a situation and pulling your sleeves up, which is something that I think generally in this culture is not something that is, I don't think there's a lot of emphasis on it. Like doing hard work. Like you have to work at everything. Like the more precious the thing you're trying to get, the more work you have to put in. Like my son loves Ronaldo, and I always show him videos about Ronaldo when he's talking about his son, just to get at him, because he always says his son's not got the passion, he's not got the drive, he's not got the energy, he's not got the that kind of desire to succeed, which makes him get up at 4 o'clock in the morning as his father does. So I said, look, he is one of the greatest footballers in the history of football. The reason for
Mm.
that was not he wasn't naturally gifted. If you look at his early games, he was essentially a good prospect, but he just went mental in terms of technique, training, lifestyle, focus. And the same thing with a marriage. You got a marriage and you get married. Let's just say you get married without too much involvement with people you trust, and you're just there married. So you've got to make it work. You can make it work. There's no such thing as an incompatible marriage. It's a question of how much effort you put in yourself, but also in helping the other person. So this is the thing about marriage, is it's also helping, giving a helping hand to the other person to be the best version of themselves. And as a spouse, you should do that. You step up and realize, for example, the backstory of your husband or your wife, and think, okay, how can I help them be my spouse? Like they might need help, they might need support, they might need a bit of leeway, they might need a bit of breathing space. And it's that I think is something that we need to work on, not just in marriage, but I think generally in the communities that we have to work on people trying to work at things, putting effort in, putting the work in, and inshallah getting the best result.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
Lovely, Sheikh, man. Jazakallah khair. I think that's really important what you just said. Digging. I never thought about it like that, actually. That's really interesting, man. So what do you
No,
think?
no. You start digging for evil, bad things, negative things. There's always something somewhere that you use as a problem.
Yeah.
And there's actually a very simple. Actually, this came to my mind. There's a very famous sheikh in Yemen, Abdurrahman Baj al-Haban, who was. It said that he became. That you have the awliya, the wali, the person who is like close to God, who kind of is kind of pious, really pious. He got to the station of piety, he said, by just being patient with his wife. So basically, his story was that his wife wasn't such a great person. She put him through a lot of difficulty. This is in the middle of a desert in Hadramaut. And his people thought that his wife was like mean to him, and she put him through a really difficult time. But his patience with his wife created him to be this kind of wali, this kind of great, pious, saintly person. And when he became that person, when he got you call Eureka moment, where he kind of has complete peace with himself from his wife.
Yeah,
He actually realizes that his wife was already a saint. She was she was there to make him into a saint, and the way she did that was to test his patience. It was
yeah.
quite, it was quite, it's like he got to the, imagine you get to the end of the trail, the treasure, and the treasure is there, and it's never what you expected. He basically was testing his life through his wife, and his wife did it intentionally. He didn't know that. He didn't know that God placed that person in his life to make him a better person. But I think a lot of these things are perspective as well. I think we kind of think of it just marriage, lovey-dovey, kids. But remember, your bigger question for young people is, Ramadan, purification of the heart, fasting, tarawih. It's a connection to Allah. It's creating taqwa. Marriage is also, it's going to be the majority of your life once you're married. Like time, in terms of time, energy, and focus. And that has to also be something that builds your taqwa. You have to see it as something that is creating a stronger relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the spouse that you have has to be somebody that doesn't mean that, the kind of romantic thing of you're using her hands to do tasbih after the prayer, kind of mush, kind of brain numbing kind of romanticism. It's the fact that in your patience with the other person and your children is an amazing opening, like Ramadan is an amazing opening to God and his obedience. Marriage itself is an amazing opening to God and his obedience. We can't forget that.
Oh, lovely, man. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, man. Thank you so much. We're going to quickly go into a quick ad break. Inshallah, we'll be back after that. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
So,
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, assalamu alaikum. We are back after the quick ad break. The Sheikh has only got 10 minutes, so Usman, I'm going to pass it to you, and we'll make do with what we have. Jazakallah, Sheikh, by the way, we really appreciate the time that you give.
not at all.
Yeah, that's fine. So Sheikh, I just have a question here. Before looking for a spouse, what should a young Muslim have in place in their lives before obviously taking that big responsibility?
That's a good question. What should a young person have in place before they think about marriage? I think the first thing they have to do is they have to think, am I mature? Like, am I
Yeah,
fairly, like mentally, emotionally mature? In other words, I don't go into, in a simple way, I don't get into a huff for no reason, for days on end with people. And that's actually a really good tip. If you want to know a really good way of finding out, somebody who is generally going to be a very good marriage partner. Somebody told me this a long time ago, it was about 30 years ago. They said, check and see their friends. So we know the thing of the friendship, the Prophet's famous hadith about the friend and the perfume musk seller, and that even if you're not touched by, even if you don't buy the musk, you'll still be touched by its smell. Friends are really important. Al-mar'u ala dini khalilihi. A person is on the religion of their friend. If a person has friends and they sustain friendship for a long time from childhood, that's always an amazing. I mean, that's always that's one of the best indications I always see. When you see somebody you're interested in, look at their friends. Have they stuck with their friends? Because that for me shows emotional maturity. For a child to go through friendship from
yeah,
school, later on, and not get annoyed with what always happens in friendship, where you fall out. And if you're emotionally immature, you'll fall out and you will never get back to that person again. That's an emotional trait that the person that does that needs to work on. But also, it's for me, it's a problem. It doesn't mean it's a no, but it just means that the person needs to, for whatever reason, needs to work on that specific thing. So for you, I mean, you have to look around and say, if I have friends, am I just randomly, just because somebody annoys me a bit, I just fall out and cut complete contact with them? That's a really bad sign.
yeah,
Emotional, spiritual, emotional intelligence. I say emotional intelligence more than anything else. And with that is that idea of responsibility, that idea that you can if somebody came to my house with the hand of my daughter in marriage, I would say, okay, I would look, and I really fear for that person that comes, but I would look and I would really see, is this person able to shoulder responsibility?
Mm.
And that for me would be a big thing. And I would think my daughter would think the same way. Can that person shoulder responsibility? And in the day and age we're living in, come on, look at the world, what's happening. Your safety is never assured. You want somebody as a husband that can protect you. And then vice versa, you want a wife that can have your back. Do you understand? And
Yeah.
that's one of the things the Prophet ﷺ said in the farewell khutbah, that they do not give the secrets of the bed. In other words, the secrets of the private space of the husband and the wife. The wife should never disclose those. So that's the kind of thing a woman, young girl who's looking to get married should think about. Am I a person that would always keep the secrets of my husband, have his back, be there for him emotionally? If you are that kind of person, then Bismillah, that's it. Look at that basic financial stability. I don't think you want to be somebody, which is like in the Arab countries, they expect like a flat house, fully furnished, as dowry for their daughter. I mean, that's not possible, not plausible. But the ability to provide. So the person might be even just finishing or in university, is not providing, but has the ability. So the potential to provide, not the richness now, but the potential for provision for a husband, that's really important. So that's the top of my head. I think those are the most important things, I think.
I agree, to be honest, man. Especially like uh I was speaking to a guy the other day actually and Mina in the masjid here, and he was like, oh, I'm really afraid that if I try to go and marry someone, they're gonna say you don't have any money.
Mhm.
I was like, you're a student and you have a future. If anything, it's more telling of the
No, but
family.
that's good. Exactly. I was say that. It's more
Yeah,
telling with the person that you're speaking to say, okay, bye bye for
yeah,
you.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But to be honest, from their side, you have to show the potential of providing.
yeah,
It's not that you're providing. I said the potential to provide for her. That's important.
yeah, 100%. And that's what I said to him. I was like, look, you're a very, like, you're a smart young man. You're at university. You're gonna get your degree done soon. Like,
Hmm.
like your to-be wife should be aware of that, the fact that you are going to get to that point, but that's not a reason to say no.
But Tone's not her. I mean, it'd be her guardian. A guardian would like no, like nobody was brought up, or is not everyone's brought up with this golden spoon in their mouth,
Mm.
and they don't wait, and you shouldn't wait until that's done. So the guardian should, they should look and have that discussion man to man with the person who wants to marry his daughter,
Yeah.
and kind of work that out. Like, oh yeah, he's like people came to this country from the subcontinent with like nothing
Mm.
and made so much in their lives. It's the same thing here. I mean, why is that not possible?
Yeah, 100%. So that's what I told him. I was like,
Alhamdulillah.
this will be the way that you determine which family you should get married into as well. These are ways that you can determine these things.
Mm.
You seem kind of happy by it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you'll know. Okay, I'm knocking at the wrong door.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
100%. So, alhamdulillah. Um,
So you can do the show. I mean, you're a wise man.
Me, no,
You're dropping the wisdom here.
no, absolutely not. Like, you're only saying that because I'm Munna's grandson.
I know. Yeah, it's true. Actually, you caught me out there. It's from your genes. It's from the genes. I could tell.
No, it's funny, man. Like, even when I was getting married, um, my wife told me later on that when we sent the proposal, uh, our father knew who my granddad was,
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he said to her, he said, you need to take this serious because of who the grandfather is. So I'm glad
Exactly.
it has its perks, man. But on the flip side of it, that's also what my family was saying to me. They were like, we know their family. It's a good family to marry into, right?
Okay.
Um, that's also what I was saying to the guy. I was like, look, you need to have people around you to be able to sort of not vet necessarily, but to find out about the family generally, right? You want to know what the child's like, look at the mom and dad.
Mm,
So
absolutely.
yeah, alhamdulillah. Having a grandfather like mine definitely has its perks, man. Alhamdulillah. So, uh, what are Sheikh, you spoke about, generally, and we only have a few minutes here.
Mm.
To what extent should a young man be physically fit or capable? To what extent?
Physically fit or capable. Come on, what's he what's he gonna do?
As in, do you mean like, does he need to be in the gym X amount of times? Does he have to, does he have to have mastered a martial art?
Are you actually telling me is this a serious question?
Yeah, like
See,
a lot of people come to me and they're like, "Well, what does that mean, Kasim? If I need to be physically fit for my wife, like, what
you
does that?"
said you need to physically you need to be alive, you have a pulse. If you got a pulse, we can make it work. Alhamdulillah, we can make as long as there's nothing serious going on, you're good to go. I mean, this whole uh, gym business is, I think, getting out of hand. Just send the guy to Dagestan 2 3 years and forget, and you'll be okay.
Shit. You don't think there's any like parameter? Sheikh, I feel like there's a few guys now on YouTube. Uh, I can't remember his name. I'm pretty sure he's part of Yaqeen Institute or something. Sheikh Abdullah something. I mean,
Okay.
I think he's pretty big on like, men having to be in the gym and having to, make sure they can fight and all this kind of stuff. I also do agree. I think it's a little bit, out of hand, but you think that having a pulse is, is enough?
Yeah, I'm the other madhab.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Sheikh, how do you know these references, man? No, I'm really interested.
Just life, innit? Life lessons.
Fair enough. No, it's a
So anyway, Jazakallah khair for having me.
we appreciate it.
It's an amazing topic,
Exactly.
actually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Me and
Actually, if you told me beforehand, I would have got scared. I wouldn't have come on.
Yeah, you've done
So it's
fantastic.
good that we didn't tell you beforehand.
I know that.
Yes. Alhamdulillah. Okay, Jazakallah khair.
Allah keeps in
Thank you,
advise.
Sheikh. Jazakallah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
To the listeners, we still have 14 minutes. Unfortunately, we won't have Sheikh here, but we got Usman here, man. Isn't that right, Usman?
That's it. I'm still here.
The reason why I asked that question is because I feel like that's what I do say to a lot of people that ask me about marriage. I do make it, maybe I'm wrong, but I do make it, a talking point that you want to see if someone's disciplined. And I think you do need to have some kind of discipline, or you should be disciplined to a certain degree before marriage. I think that's part of maturity. I think one way that you can gauge that of a person, especially a man, is if he takes care of himself. If he is, exercising or is learning how to fight and stuff. But maybe I've been wrong, man. I'm not
I
sure.
mean, like Sheikh said that physically his pulse should only be working. Nothing else matters.
That's enough, man. Well, I mean, imagine someone tries to mess my wife, bro. What am I gonna do? Like, surely I need to you know what I mean? But I don't know. Yeah, I think, to be honest, right? I was speaking to a few guys the other day. I think a part of the reason why it may be more important right now, especially with like the reform stuff that's going on, and there are like potential, especially from women that are wearing hijab, right? When they go outside, a guy sees a woman wearing a hijab, everyone knows that that woman's a Muslim. And especially with like, all the anti-Islam stuff that's going on right now anyway. Although
Yeah.
it sort of like comes and goes, it's just like it's like super trendy at one point, then it's sort of calms down, and then it, gets loud again or whatever. But I think right now anyway, I think it's really important for a husband to make sure that they are quite physically capable. I think that's just what I see, and that's what I've heard as well. But this is just the sense, this is a youth show. This is the sense that I get from people when I talk to young guys, man. I do also agree with Sheikh. I think it is a little bit over exaggerated having to be in the gym. I don't know if like every day of the week or something like this. This over obsession or over exaggeration.
Yeah, like people say you need to have a body, pure bodybuilding in the gym and be in the gym 5 6 days a week,
Yeah,
and kind of, you know, obviously dieting every day as well to kind of keep that build. So I do kind of I always, like you said, we understand what Sheikh said before, um, that you're obviously, I think people our age are more kind of focused on the gym and diet kind of side that, oh, you know what, people might kind of think that, you know, if we don't look a certain way, then we might get judged. But like
Yeah,
Sheikh
that's
said, that, you know, you shouldn't be like, you shouldn't care about all that. As
yeah,
long,
100%.
honestly, that's like sticking in my head. He that one sentence he said that, as long as long as the person's pulse is working.
But I wasn't even like trying to ask the question like, God, do you need to look good for your wife or anything? Which I mean, each to their own. I think it has its benefits in a marriage, to be honest. That um, attraction is something in a marriage that isn't just something that comes initially and it stays. Attraction needs to be constantly worked on, right? You need to look good for your wife, and your wife has to look good for you. That's just a fact. And if you don't take care of yourselves, then attraction will be lost, and you don't want that, right? So, but I wasn't even talking about it from that perspective. I was more asking, like, are there any sort of parameters or recommendations that should be given to a young Muslim, like to young Muslim men, as to how they should be physically fit when it comes to protecting your spouse? Like Sheikh was mentioning that before. Like he was saying that, in this day and age, I swear I remember exactly what he said. He said, in this day and age, a man has to be able to physically protect his wife. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what he said, right? And even if not, that is generally just true. You do have, like, even if it's not something that's gonna happen all the time that you go out with your wife, if it's a one-off, that's enough of a risk for you to have to be in shape. I think anyway. Not that you have to have.
Yeah, like, you never know what's gonna happen, what's out there. Obviously, we do stay in, you know, a place where there's not, like, it's not only Muslims. It's obviously a mix.
Aye,
So like you said before, that you obviously we don't know what's gonna happen when we're out there, outside the house. So obviously need to be prepared, you know, in any sort of kind of matter or what happens.
100%. And these days, man, I don't even think the only threat is someone that's non-Muslim. I think, from what I've seen anyway, last Ramadan, there's a young boy, 15 years old. He got stabbed near Masjid Furqan and Mab Center.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I remember that. I remember that. Yeah.
and it happened in Ramadan, and the guy that stabbed him was a Muslim, right? I'm not saying, by the way, obviously, this doesn't necessarily have anything to do with marriage. What I'm saying is, like, the threat is not just, anyone that's a non-Muslim or anything. I think it's, you got to protect yourself from anything and everything almost, right?
Exactly, from anyone. You
Yeah.
never know what can happen.
Yeah, you don't know, man. Um, But I mean, those are just my personal thoughts. I don't think everyone needs to be stuck in the gym, and I think it would be a really unfair and false expectation of a man over a woman or a woman over a man to have this and be like, oh, I really want him to be in the gym or I really want her to go exercise and all this kind of stuff. If they have a different and reason behind it, which, by the way, like, the research as to why it's so important for you to build muscle, not to look good, but to build muscle because, uh, you know, uh, um, increases your lifespan. You live more healthy. You decrease your risk of X, Y, and Z diseases and stuff. That's different, right? Not purely for aesthetic purposes. Should, a man tell his wife or a wife tell her husband? It should be for all these other reasons, right? Because you take care of yourself right now, your kids are gonna be healthier. Sheikh was speaking about the importance of procreation. You want your kids to live a good life, a healthy life, a happy life, man. I think this is this plays a big part, right? Um, Exercise not from an aesthetic perspective, but from a health perspective. I think that's why it should be really important in a marriage. Um, anyway, that's a separate point. Those are just my personal thoughts. Um, there were other things that we wanted to ask the Sheikh, but unfortunately, he had little time. Like I was mentioning before, I had that interesting conversation with Brian. I never met this guy before. He was in the
Right.
mosque that night. It was just before Ramadan started, and he found out through a friend of mine that I was married, and he was asking me. He was like, man, I'm really worried, and I got all these issues, especially when it comes to uh, sort of just the demographic these days, what families expect of a young man, blah, blah, blah. He's like, gosh, and what do I do? What do I do about money and this, that? I say, bro, first of all, calm down, bro. Relax. It's not that deep. right? If anything, you're lucky because if all you're encountering are these families, or if the majority of cases where you're encountering are these people that all they care about are these like, sort of unreasonable expectations, this is a blessing, right? Because you get to avoid these things now. Um, and then when he spoke about, the reason why I speak about the financial thing a lot is because I'm a student. I don't have money. Not like that. Alhamdulillah, I work part-time or whatever, but I don't have money like that. And alhamdulillah, there just wasn't a it wasn't an obstacle for me, man. I definitely got blessed. I know that. I'm very lucky, but it's how it should be for everyone. The Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, get married young. I recommend that people get married young, and my ummah should get married young. Like, that is for so many reasons. One of them obviously being to avoid fitna, right? So that you don't fall into haram and stuff. Um, but another is because you shouldn't take too long getting into this phase of your life. Like, let's be honest, man. You're young, what, 19, 20? You just gone through school or whatever. Like, what else you got? What else you got? What else you gonna look forward to, man? You know what I mean? It should be something you enter in young. It's funny, my brother, he got married about 26, 25 years old. His wife was similar age at the time. And she said to my wife that the one of the biggest regrets I have in my life is not getting married earlier, younger age. That's what she said. And me and my wife always speak about that. We're like, Alhamdulillah, we're so lucky that we got married at 20 years old. Yeah, sure. It takes up a lot of your time, especially when you're a young guy, and especially with the way things are, especially in Glasgow, right? Everyone likes to chill. Everyone likes to go out. Not just in Glasgow, just generally, man. You're a young guy, you
In
get
general, aye.
you like to go chill with your boys in there, or if you're a girl, you like to go chill with your friends. And that does take away from it a little bit, but then you have a marriage that you get to work on. You have this amazing person that you get to spend so much time with, right? I'm not saying, by the way, that it should be one or the other. You should find a good middle ground. But just like the Sheikh said, when you get married, it is where most of your time will go. Alhamdulillah, I've only been married a year, but it is true, especially if you care about the marriage, especially if you want to, make it a marriage that will inshallah carry on into the next life, right? Because that's the goal. You want to be with your spouse and the hereafter. That's where you really get to enjoy um, each other and enjoy your time together.
I mean,
Uh,
how's it been for you, Carson? Because I think it's been just over a year since you've had your Nakar done. Because I
Alhamdulillah, man.
remember, if I'm not wrong, last January, me and one of the other boys came down for your Nakar, and yeah, so I thought I'd ask you.
Alhamdulillah, man. It's only been a year, and I think the amount that you can learn in a year of marriage, you will not expect. That's one thing. It's very interesting. I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but you know, you get to learn about the opposite gender in a way where you never expected. And now I feel like I understand my mum better. I understand my sister better. I understand just the women in my life better after getting married. It's very interesting. I never expected that, to be honest. But alhamdulillah, getting married young was the best thing I ever did, and I know that it's not only does it feel like that now, it'll feel like that, uh, in a few years' time, it'll feel like that in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. I know it was the best move that I could have made. Alhamdulillah, I would recommend everyone get married young. I was even speaking to a close friend of mine, and he was speaking about his dad, and he was having a conversation with his dad. And his dad was saying that my biggest regret is that I didn't get you all married at like 18, 19 years old. He's even speaking about his daughters. And he said that I wish I got all of you guys married young because we do not live in a nice time and a very kind time, especially when it comes to, gender mixing and all this kind of stuff. And the fitna is at its peak, to be honest. Usman, you know just as well as I do. Um, the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith that with every generation, the fitna, the tests will get worse and worse. So we've got it the worst that it could be. Um, And his my friend's dad was speaking to that effect. He was saying, "Look, I just know this is not a nice time to be alive in when it comes to this stuff. That haram is everywhere." Imam Mustaqim, when we had him on the show the other day, he was saying that the haram is easier to access than the halal, and
Mm.
haram a lot of the time will feel a lot better than the halal, and that's just real. That's just him being raw and truthful and honest. And I think people need to accept that reality sometimes, that sometimes doing the right thing doesn't always feel that great. But it's not about how you feel. It's about the fact that you did the right thing, and you have faith in Allah, that Allah will take care of you, that He will reward you for it, and that this world is an illusion, is a test, and it is temporary, and that we're only here for a short time, and we're only travelers in this life, and we'll be able to truly enjoy the fruits of our labor when we go to Jannah. It's hard to see that sometimes. Um, especially when things are made super difficult and you're not taught properly and stuff. People do live this reality, like Sheikh was mentioning, that they're not, or I'd rather I was saying to the Sheikh that people just, aren't aware of things. They don't have a proper support system and they're not taught properly, and I think that is a problem. But inshallah, we make dua that Allah makes these things easy for all of us. Ameen. We make dua that
Yummy.
the people that aren't married, Allah makes it easy for them. That it's not too hard. That it's not too much of a hardship for them. Uh, there's not a better time to make these du'as than in Ramadan. So Allah accept it from all of us. Allahumma ameen.
Yummy.
Khair to everyone tuning in. It's been uh, it's been great having these scholars on, alhamdulillah. We hope to get a few more on, so stay tuned. Inshallah. Jazakallah khair, Usman. Thank you so much for being here as always. I appreciate it. Allah
Thank you, bro.
accept it from us. Ameen. Jazakallah
Amen.
khair, everyone. Stay tuned for the next episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.